Hello everyone and welcome. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Firebug and today we'll be continuing playing Jotunnslayer Hordes of Hel. Today we'll be unlocking the Arch Mage's secondary skin. This is what it looks like. Pretty cool. And all you have to do is beat Alfheim on Insane. Also, I have a full playlist that you could go and check out in the link in the description so you can unlock every character's secondary skin for free. Because all the other skins, they're DLC. But you can unlock this one for free as well. So, let's go to Alfheim on Insane and let's begin. Alright, let us talk about certain things about the Arch Mage compared to my previous video. If you haven't checked out my previous video, go ahead and check that out. I'll have the link in the description. Basically, the previous video, I talked about the Arch Mage, what's my likes, dislikes, all that fun stuff. I've been playing and been experimenting with him a little bit more. I do say that I'm starting to understand him a little bit more, but I still think he's not as strong as the other characters, in my opinion. I think he still needs a buff, but especially in the beginning. In the beginning, it's going to be quite tough, and I found myself to use the certain objectives, right? So the one that I used right now is like you just have to stand on the little circle and basically just ignite the flame or whatever this is called, right? Anyways, I find myself not actually doing that a whole lot in my behind the scenes kind of videos, because behind the scenes I've been just experimenting with his build. In this video, it does work. I think I have a better build, which I'll show you guys in the next video. With that being said, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. But as you can see there, the double Ragnarok, pretty good. So I feel like the only good subclass that he has is just the Frost one. I feel like the other ones are not as strong or as potent as the Frost one. It's just that it's the only one that works well. He gets so much benefits to use that subclass than the other subclasses. The poison is the weakest. And I didn't know this, but poison in this game is actually the weakest element. Shock is actually pretty strong, and bleed is the strongest. So bleed is the strongest tech damage in the game, which I didn't know that. I actually sat there and kind of just dived a little bit deeper in the game to figure that out. But the other subclasses he has is the shock, frost, poison, and flame, right? So I'll go down the list of what the strongest to the least strongest, right? So the strongest one is bleed. Second strongest is shock. Third is burn. And then fourth is poison. Poison is the weakest one, so don't ever use the poison subclass. I know it looks cool. I know it looks flashy. It just doesn't work. And I'm just going to be honest with you. It just doesn't work. But that being said, freeze and freezing, it doesn't do tick damage. That's why it's not in that list. But freeze does basically stun, or the enemies can't move, they can't walk, they can't do any actions. And so that's why it's really good. Pair that up with 1 point of Scotty, because I I've always thought that I had to put at least 2 points in Scotty, but not with this character. You just have to put 1 point, because the more I thought about it, the more I realized, oh, all of his skills, right? Once you pick a subclass, all of his skills, right? The class skills that he has will also be Frost. That being said, you don't really have to put 2 points in Scotty. You just have to pick up that 1 point in Scotty. And I always use the Arctic Arrow one. It's just because of the 100% freeze chance. And that's always going to be good. And then, of course, I picked up the local Ragnarok. I feel like Odin also really works well with him. It's just one of those gods that just kind of like synergize with the Arch Mage. So, the Frost subclass, then Scotty, then Odin. Because why Odin? Because of the double cast that heals, and this character really like strives with double casting and reduce cooldowns. And so that was the process of this build, is basically just more double cast. To top it off, you could use 1 point in Freya, which, yes, you can go to a Freya, but I actually found a different person that works actually better than Freya. But Freya would work good if you're doing the fire build, but in my opinion, the fire with the Archmage, he doesn't really benefit a whole lot. And that's what I'm going to try to like discuss it. So I know in my previous video, I really did enjoy the fire subclass for the Archmage because of the additional dash, right? The additional dash makes it have more sustainability. But I actually find myself using the Arctic or the Cryomancer, I think that's what it's called, subclass, because the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Scotty, right? Every time you freeze someone, and every time they're frozen and you kill them as they're being frozen, you can heal off of it. The fire, right? Because only Loki, right? He has a burn and he has health regen. But health regen isn't going to make it really, that strong. Yes, health regen is good. Don't get me wrong, it is. But actual healing from, let's say, like, killing an enemy is so much more beneficial. And on top of it, you're having a one ability that's 100% chance of freezing enemies. And you have a higher chance to basically heal off of it. So that's the purpose. It's just the frost makes a lot more sense. The fire one, you don't have the healing whatsoever. The healing from, let's say, the Flame Sister, what makes it really work is because she can heal off of the burns. Archmage doesn't have anything like that. So trying to figure out like a good sustainability build was the key here. Now, the other thing I wanted to really kind of do with this build in this insane video, right? And after you beat insane mode on Alfheim, that's when you unlock the skin. So another thing that I wanted to do with this build, why Freya and Odin work really well here, is because they both have standstills. If you go to the subclass of the Cryomancer, standing still grants you these shields. That's why you see them around me. And they have a chance to reflect and do damage and knockback. Freya and Odin also have standstill passives. The Odin one is actually a lot better in my opinion, because you have a 20% reduced cooldown. So reduced cooldown will apply to all of your abilities. That's why it makes it really good. So in this build, standing still, this is the standstill build that you can try out, and it works really well with him. The other one grants you critical hit chance. Now, you can do a critical hit and put 1 point in Odin that every time you do a critical hit, you can apply a bleed, which I don't know why I didn't pick it up. I think I did in this video. I can't remember. Because I did it in my other, like, behind the scenes recordings. I'm just trying to, figure out a really good build once I hit to Nightmare 10. Once I figure it out, then, of course, I'll make a video of, like, hey, I just basically beat the game. Because, if you think about it, I don't think I've ever seen anyone else, and I still haven't. And I'm not saying I'm the first. I don't want to claim that I'm the first, but I still haven't seen anyone else attempt Nightmare 10 at all. I've been trying to watch people on stream, been watching some other YouTubers just to get a reference, but I've always find myself that it's so interesting that most people will just go on in this mode and call it good. And that's weird to me, because I'm like, in this mode, yeah, I get it. It's not like crazy strong in OP, and I get it. People want to test out the builds, whatever. But I find myself that if you really want to try out a good build, just try to keep playing on Nightmare 10. That's how you get better at the game. It's kind of like Elden Ring. The game's really hard, but once you keep playing and playing, you adapt. That's how you get better. Because the problem with endless mode is that you could test out a build, but the enemy difficulty isn't as strong. So in Alfheim on Nightmare 10, enemy difficulties is up to 510%. So that is something you have to keep in mind. That it's, yes, you could go on endless mode. You're like, okay, I found the perfect build. Then once you go to that and go swap to Nightmare 10, you find yourself having a hard time in the very beginning. So that's why I don't recommend going on endless mode. But going back to what I was talking about, once I find a good Arch Mage build, because I believe that this is close. The standstill one is really good, but I think I can find, or I think I did find, one of the two. What am I talking about? I think I did find a really good build for him. And I'm going to just be honest, it's going to just be another Frost build. And I tried to make the other ones work. I really did try to push out the shock one, right? Because shock is actually really good in this game. And it has a tick damage, which I didn't know about. But shock is really good just because of that you can apply it to your orbs and have a chain lightning effect. But the problem is you have to only rely on Thor. And Thor isn't too bad. He just doesn't have any sustainability. And that's the problem with this character. He doesn't have anything that's like sustainable. So trying to find another character that grants you sustainability and works with that build is pretty challenging. But I tried all the different builds for the Archmage, but I've always find myself using the Frost one, and it's been the best one yet. So always pick up the Frost one, Frost subclass, and then always pick up at least 1 point of Scotty. I personally like her Arctic Arrow the most because You basically you can pick it up, and the cooldown isn't too long. I think it's like every 2 to 3 seconds that you can just consistently freeze people, and it has 100% chance of freezing. So, and you just have to put at least 1 point in Scotty, and you don't have to do the 2 points in Scotty like I used to do in my previous older videos. But with the Arch Mage, you don't really have to put too many points. You just have to pick up 1 god, and that's really it. Because your once you pick up a subclass, your actual abilities, your class abilities, and your orbs, everything will also do the element damage as well. But if you guys have any other build suggestions that you want to throw in, just leave it in the comment section, honestly. Because not only I get to read it, but people that do come by to this video will also get the chance to read it. So the more build suggestions, the better. Also, this is gonna be the last video, I believe, until they make a new character, right? For the how to get the skin series. And it's been a journey. I know the other ones are pretty outdated, which I could go back and perfect them. But at the same time, it's the same concept. It's just basically you just have to beat a map on hard or even insane. And the more like in the very beginning, the first map, it's not going to be too hard. It's actually quite easy. It's just that the more you play, the more harder it gets. So in Alfheim is the hardest one. It's the hardest map in the game so far. The second hardest one is Helheim. But I would like to say that Helheim is still harder. Because yes, the enemy difficulty is pretty hard on Insane. And on Nightmare 10 on Alfheim. But what makes Helheim a lot harder is just because of the different rooms, and you have to do all of those objectives in a certain amount of time. And in different rooms, there's different challenges, right? And you still have to do it all in the split of time. Like, in these big open maps ones, like, Alfheim is just one big open map. The difference between this one and, like, Helheim is that in Helheim, yes, you could pick, like, I think a couple of the objectives, but most of the rooms in Helheim, you can't pick of the objective. You have to do, like, the puzzle one. Or survive the trap room. The trap room was the hardest one for me. Oh my gosh. But I think that's why in Helheim, I still believe it's actually harder. But in Alfheim, it's not too bad. In my opinion. It's just because I think it's because all the other maps, they're also just big and open areas that I've kind of gotten used to of how to, like, basically encounter these enemies and attack them and all that. And on top of it, with these big open maps, you can choose the objectives. So what I usually just do, because I'm good with gold, right, and all that, what I usually do is I just pick the easier option for the objective. And I find myself doing that a lot more. So going back to the beginning, how I was kind of talking about, like, how you had to stand still in that first objective, and you basically stand still on those flames, and then it will go away. Well, I actually do the portal one. Why the portal is because the portal objective is a lot easier. And on top of it, I didn't know this for quite some time, but you can actually get outside of the circle of the portal one, and the enemies will still be there. Like, it doesn't reset or anything whatsoever. So that being the case, it's actually a lot easier than trying to stand in the area and then end up dying. Now with this one, and I've actually did experiment with this one too. You can get outside of the circle. You can. You don't even have to be inside of it. It's a lot better if you do, because you had to have those sacrifice. You had to sacrifice enemies for order it to progress. But you can basically get outside of the circle of this objective, the one I just completed, and you don't have to restart it. That's like the beauty of it. Because the ones that you have to restart will end up costing you a lot more time. So, in my opinion, just experiment. And I don't know all of the objectives on Alfheim just yet, but I've been experimenting behind the scenes. The videos or things that you don't see in the final cut of each of my videos, right? Behind the scenes, right? When I do get the chance, I try to experiment in like different scenarios, different builds, just to see what works. So these portal ones, yeah, those ones, if you have the option to get that one in the beginning, I find those ones a lot easier to do than the blazers or the ones you have to light up. Especially in harder difficulty like Nightmare 10, that's going to be a lot harder. So what I'm trying to do with this video is try to prepare myself and maybe prepare you guys to maybe you can have a shot on actually beating the entire game on the hardest difficulty, Nightmare 10. And that is an achievement of its own. Because again, I haven't seen any other person, and I don't want to say I'm the first person, because I bet there's someone that doesn't have like a YouTube or a Twitch account or anything that's already beat the entire game. That's why I wish that there is a scoreboard, because that'd be kind of cool. But it would be quite an achievement to beat the entire game on the hardest, newest, and hardest difficulty, Nightmare 10. So, that all being said, you can kind of get the idea what this build is. You stand still, dish out a lot of damage, and you can reset cooldowns. You have shields, and double cast. The more double cast, the better. So, you can actually have a lot more double cast and basically just have almost a lot of your double Ragnaroks, right? More abilities, ice, all that fun stuff. But I actually find myself finding more reduced cooldown. Because yes, double cast is cool, and you can get 2 Ragnaroks at a time. But if you have reduced cooldown, you can actually basically not wait 30 seconds for the Ragnarok. You can actually wait I think less than that with certain builds, and then have a double cast, so you can actually have the local Ragnarok multiple times. And I think in one of my videos, someone did comment about this build. Well, not this build in particular, but talking about how they achieved a local Ragnarok. And I still am going to try to do that build and see how far it works. So that's something that I am going to try out. And have multiple Ragnaroks like that. So, you're probably wondering why the local Ragnarok, even though your Flame Sister video, you used the spear. Yes, I tried to use the spear, and the spear does work well. Because of the lower cooldown, it has a lot of bleeds, all that. The reason why I say the local Ragnarok is just a little bit better, it's just because it does a lot more damage, and on top of it, if you have reduced cooldown and double cast, you can proc it 2 times and basically nuke the area a lot. And these higher levels in Alfheim, it is quite like important just to pick up the local Ragnarok, in my opinion. It's just a better pick because yes, the spear is good, but it also can push enemies towards you, even though it's supposed to be a quote-unquote knockback. But if the spear is behind the enemy, it pushes them towards you, which is quite funny. And you don't want that in higher difficulties, because in a higher difficulty, if the enemy's closer to you, you're gonna get insta-killed. Like right here, if I did that exact thing in Nightmare 10, I would have died. Because having enemies close to you will instantly basically kill you. Especially when in Nightmare 10 and Alfheim, that's going to be enemy difficulty 510. So that's those certain things you just have to keep in mind. And that's the reason why I say maybe the local Ragnarok is a lot better. Now, when it comes to the bosses, you can actually relax just a little bit. Like, of course, still be on guard. Don't just be dumb and just, think that you're a Mega Chad right here. You will die if you just stand on any of those abilities. But the boss fights, and I'm still gonna say this, I feel like the bosses are still too weak. And out of all the other games, right, when you think of boss fights, you tense up. You're like, okay, this is it. This is what I've been working for. Right? It's like it's supposed to be an epic battle. But in this game, it's really lackluster, in my opinion. As you can see, he's almost dead. And he hasn't even landed one attack on me. And I'm not saying, buff him to make the bosses OP. Make it, more of a challenge. But, anyways, that's going to be really it for this video. Hopefully this helps you guys. And, hopefully I covered everything. If there is any questions or anything, just leave it in the comments below. I always read all my comments, and I reply as fast as I can. So, there you go. That's it. All you have to do is beat Alfheim on Insane, and you should be able to unlock the Arch Mage's secondary skin. But just to quickly go over, here is the full build. And you can copy this if you're struggling on Alfheim on Insane. And I believe this build works really well. So there you go. Alright, now let's show you the skin that you have unlocked. So this is what the skin looks like again. And anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope this helps. And subscribe so you don't miss out when I do beat this game with the Archmage on Alfheim on the hardest difficulty, Nightmare 10. Alright, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.